Hey folks, Joe Valley here. Welcome to another episode of the Quiet Light Podcast. Thank you for joining me once again. This is part two of talking with Dan Smith, a former Hollywood producer turned entrepreneur turned exitpreneur. The first part last week, we talked more about Dan's journey as the producer to entrepreneur building a business. In this episode, we're talking more about his experience in why he decided to sell the business, what process he went through pre-sale, what it was like to work with an advisor at Quiet Light, in this case specifically Chuck Mullins, who he praises him greatly. He had an interesting number here. Dan had talked to 20 brokers before he talked to Chuck and made the decision to go with Chuck. He wound up with 8 offers for his business. It sold for over asking price, and he attributes 90% of that to Chuck. You'll hear in Dan's voice, and if you watch the video, you'll get to the point of trusting him and understand that it wasn't just the business, it was the trust in him as well, and some of the unique aspects of the business that he put together as he built it over the last 8 years. So we go through that aspect of it, and then again, we talk about what he's doing now. He's actually doing some consulting, so if you stick around to the end or look at the show notes, we're giving his contact information out and the website as well, and then where you can reach him directly and get some help with some alternative CMO marketing type of stuff. So here we go, part two of Hollywood producer turned entrepreneur turned exitpreneur, Dan Smith. Here we go. Well, all that's fascinating on the bootstrap and building the business and growing it. Mm-hmm. By making every dollar count, and reaching out and talking to the customers yourselves. This is something that I don't think we do enough of. In fact, I need to redesign my website. I need to start calling customers and say, I know it's bad. What would you do differently? What were you hoping for? What am I not providing for you, both on the Quiet Light side and on the exitpreneur side? Let's jump now, though, to the exitpreneur aspect of your life. At some point, you decided it's time to sell this business. Mm-hmm. Talk to me about your mindset there and how that came about.
Well, my wife was my consultant. We'd been talking about it for about 3 or 4 years. And I said to her, when I decide to do this, I have to invest a year in it. Like I've never sold the business before, but I kind of knew it would take a year and a year of focus. And so we had gotten to the point around 2019 where there were choices that I had made. Every time that we would do our strategic plan at the beginning of the year, there would be a body that we would want to add. We really need somebody to do X, okay? And every time we saw that, we said, we're not hiring that person. We're going to invest in technology. We're going to figure out process or technology to maybe not do exactly what that person would do, but sort of achieve growth without raising our overhead. And what I found in the end was we ended up automating processes. So at the point that I started to really get serious about selling it I think was the beginning of, 2021, I could take the time off from running day to day because our processes were really good. And my brother, who was he'd done a bunch of liquidity events. He's a CFO accounting guy. Mm-hmm. And he had taken a handful of businesses through liquidity events. Before I ever talked to Chuck, my brother, I handed him my accounting, and he, in the kindly way that a brother would do, beat the hell out of me for about 2 months, so that once someone like Chuck got a hold of the business, the accounting was really buttoned up. And I can't tell you, because that's another great piece of advice. Before you begin selling your business, way before, get your accounting straight. Because eventually there's going to be somebody doing due diligence on your business, okay? And he's going to look at all that accounting that you're going to allow them to have, and they're going to try to pick apart your accounting. And it's brutal, except if you know your accounting is buttoned up. So when you're asked questions, and you can answer them, and you're telling the truth, and you know that the numbers reflect what you're saying, then what can be a brutal experience becomes, just kind of just one more element in selling your business.
Yeah, I'll second, third, fourth, fifth that. I've looked at thousands of P&Ls, Dan, over the years. It's been a decade since I've been part of Quiet Light. Those businesses and those business owners that don't have accrual accounting, or their P&Ls are in Excel, or it's just a mess, or the details in QuickBooks are zero, or just all piled in and not categorized well, they eventually give up on the idea of selling, or they're so emotionally burnt out that they sell for so much less than what they could have. So I love your foresight in terms of, honey, I'm gonna do this, but I'm gonna prepare for it for a year, and then having the luxury of having your brother be a CFO and rip your P&L to shreds.
Well, yeah, that's the other thing. Is sort of like, I've got like, what are the assets that are available to me? Oh, I have a brother who, I mean, I don't know what it would cost to hire somebody to help you prep your business, and there's no way I could get anybody who was as good as my brother for whatever I would be willing to spend.
Yeah.
So it's sort of like, oh, I've got this asset. Now this is an interesting idea.
Yeah.
So I would say the advice is, I was using QuickBooks, so I was decent, but man, you're absolutely right. Like that coding, I was basically using QuickBooks only to give to my accountant so we could have a P&L
for tax returns.
For tax returns. That was the only reason, because I was just basically, I have a little cash flow spreadsheet. I knew what my cash flow was. I didn't need QuickBooks to do that.
Not. Yeah.
But if I had done a better job of coding, it would have been easier.
Yeah, there's lots of e-commerce bookkeepers these days that can do that work for you, Dan. Yeah. Eventually, folks will have a referral partners on the Quiet Light page where you can see the half a dozen that we recommend. If you need one now, just go to EXITpreneur.io to the partner page. In many cases, Dan, for those people that came to me with horrible P&Ls or Excel spreadsheets, I would recommend that they work with e-commerce bookkeeper, and the bookkeeper would take their books, clean them up for 24 to 36 months in arrears for a flat fee. Usually it's $100 to $200 a month going back. That expense is an add back, so it doesn't hurt your overall net income or discretionary earnings. You pay for it, but at the same time, you make so much more money because the numbers are in great shape, and it instills confidence in your buyers. If your buyers don't trust the numbers, what are they going to do, Dan? They're going to negotiate the hell out of it.
Well, I think also the thing is, you have, like, when you work with a firm like Quiet Light and you have a really good broker, you want to give them as much power and ammunition so that they can negotiate, a good deal.
And put the right price on the business to begin with. So let's talk about that. You had clean P&Ls. Did you know anything about add backs or how to calculate discretionary?
Well, my brother taught me about that. So so that was a lot of the accounting was just to get all that,
So did he do any of that in QuickBooks, or he just educated you on it and Chuck did a separate add back schedule?
No, by the time Chuck had it, Chuck did some work on the add back schedule, but it was 90% of the way there, I believe.
Okay.
So my brother has done this, so he kind of knew what could go in there and what couldn't.
Okay. And so when Chuck did the valuation, he gave you a value range. Were you initially happy with that value range, disappointed with the value range? You thought it was right on par, or you were excited about it? How'd you feel about the range?
I talked to 20 brokers before I talked to Chuck.
Okay. So you had a pretty good idea. What was wrong with the prior 20?
Chuck had a very solid view. Let's just say, I think Chuck had a very solid view on valuation. Chuck is not afraid.
Okay. So he went a little higher than some of the others.
I would say, yeah. I'd say he landed, what I saw was other brokers were more conservative. They were covering their asses. Excuse me for your podcast, but I think Chuck, or maybe it's Quiet Light, has a little bit more, doesn't waste what I felt was Chuck doesn't waste time pussyfooting around.
Well, the reality is that I have the feeling sometimes the reality is that we don't get paid unless the business sells. Yeah. And so we're not going to overvalue the business, Dan. So Chuck's valuation was probably right on par, even though you thought it might have been higher than what the other broker said. At the end of the day, he's listing it to get it sold for you. He's not afraid to take a little bit of a leap of faith, if he, especially if he believes in you and your numbers. There's so much.
Well, yeah. Well, I think this is the key. We make a video. I think I made a damn good video. So I'm a Hollywood guy. I mean, maybe we'll see it with this podcast, but he showed me some of the other entrepreneurs and I was like, I can make a better video than that. Let's go. So I think,
this was the video when the business was listed for sale for the buyers to see.
Yeah. I think, think back to like my brother helped me with the accounting. That just made it easier. I think it sort of gave Chuck the tools to do the job that he, or a Quiet Light to do the job that you do well, and then the product also, we had a product that has a patent that had really good margins, had great publicity. We had Tom Hanks had used the product, the guys from Coldplay. There was a lot going on there that made the business more valuable than a generic Amazon.
No question. Especially the defensibility of it, right? You're in a very competitive niche to begin with, but you've got a patent on it, and that helps the defensibility, instills confidence in the buyers, and therefore you're going to get offers where, in this particular niche may be more challenging if you didn't have this defensibility and you didn't present yourself the way that you did. So let's talk about the pricing of the business, the launch of it. Did you get below, at, or above asking price when the deal was finally done?
It was above.
It was above asking price. So you felt with the 20 other brokers, you talked to them, you got a lot of knowledge and experience from them. You didn't like them. Chuck came in and he was willing to take a risk and whatnot. Yet he still got above asking price. Might have been that video that you put together because instilling confidence in the buyer.
Well, we had 10 people who did the final pitch and 8 of them bid.
Okay. So you did 10. The way this works, folks that haven't done this before, listed with Quiet Light before, is that people that sign the non-disclosure agreement can see the full marketing package. Then they get to decide if they want to have a conference call, talk to Dan directly. So you had 10 people that you did conference calls with, you and the buyer and Chuck. 8 of those 10 came in and made offers.
Correct.
Okay.
I think they were all, 7 of them were full price offers.
7 were full price offers.
I believe so. It was about a year ago, but there weren't a lot of kicking the tires offers.
Yeah. And so a year ago, so roughly last summer of 2021, a very hot market. The market hasn't changed tremendously, folks. We're still getting, about 3 offers for every business on average, an average of 3. In Dan's case, it was 8. I think in 2021, we had something like 3.7 offers for every listing. So this is good. Your business is above average because of the way you built it, because of who you are, because of the work your brother did, because of this patent, and the way you and Chuck presented it together. Of those 8 offers that you got, what was it about the last one that you chose to work with that made it stand out? Was it simply the numbers, or was it a combination of other things?
No, we liked the buyers. The buyers, they seem to have hustle or moxie. I just liked them a lot, and it turned out that, after the sale or through the process of the sale, I learned to like them more. I think they're great guys. And boy, does that make it, nice when, sort of you're going through all the details of handing over a business to find that the buyers are good people. And that, I think everybody treated each other with, great respect. And so that was really the main choice, that I thought they were solid.
The price that these guys gave you, the offer, the numbers, was it equal to others, or was theirs also the highest?
It was the highest, but it wasn't by that much.
Not enough to sway you too much.
No,
it was
absolutely
really
not.
them.
It was like, I think the key is, my feeling is like, I wanted I wanted people who could be successful at this.
Yeah.
Not because of any proprietary needs for the business to be successful, but like, it would be, I would want them to, karma, you would want them to be successful.
Yeah.
And so I felt like they had the best chance of being successful.
Yeah. Now, if I recall, this also was because of the age of the business, because you've been running it, let's say like a mature professional or an adult, you were able to make it SBA eligible as well. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right. How many of the 8 offers, and I know you're digging deep into the recesses of an active time 12 months ago, how many of those 8 offers were SBA offers versus cash
I think most
buyers?
of them were. I think most of them were SBA offers.
All right. So this is another thing, folks, for you to consider as you're building your business. If it's 3 years old and you've got 3 years worth of clean tax returns, right? You can't commingle with 3 other businesses and then, you can separate it out, but it's going to be a real pain in the ass. And I'm saying ass now, Dan, because you did. I swear on the podcast occasionally as well. It's okay. Being SBA eligible opens you up to a whole slew of different buyers. It doesn't eliminate the cash buyers. What it does is it more often than not makes the cash buyers make better offers, right? And I've been in situations where I've had an SBA offer and a cash offer, and because the seller liked that person that made the SBA offer, even in that case, back in the day when you had to have a 10% seller note on SBA offers, they still chose the SBA buyer because they liked them. They trusted them. They thought they'd do a better job with the business. And they knew, like you said, you have to work with them through due diligence, which is kind of, a pretty intrusive, invasive process, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Did any challenges come up in due diligence for you, or was it pretty smooth sailing because of the work you did with your brother in advance?
I think there were some challenges. I don't want to go into the details, but I will say this. I think Chuck and Quiet Light did a really good job of not being phased by the challenges, and also having really good resources to tap into. Whether it was especially sort of working through the SBA and knowing the people, so that I think that was invaluable.
Did the buyer use was it e-commerce lending, or do you know who it was? Steven Spear, sound familiar?
I don't remember.
Okay. I'd say probably 50% of the SBA deals that we do is with a guy named Steven Spear. Buyers use him. And folks, he's with e-commerce lending. So you can go to ecommercelending.com. Talk to me about the transition period, Dan. You've been running the business for 8 years. You got a couple of new people coming in, buying the business. How long did you need to stick around contractually to help them with the training and transition period?
I think there is a 6-month contract that's a certain amount of time for the first month, then a certain amount of time for the next, and then sort of small amount of consulting. So I think now we're in a few months in. I would say there was probably a lot of engagement for probably the first 6 weeks, and then there was then it's been just very informal, support, reasonable support, like, oh, wait a second, this part of the website, where's the login for that? Or this vendor is charging me this much. Can you give me an old invoice so I can see, what the old invoices were, that kind of a thing.
Yeah. That makes sense. Did you track the time that you spent with them? Was it up to a certain amount of time during that?
Yeah, there was something in the, I think there was boilerplate that's in the contract.
Yeah.
I didn't.
You just helped. You didn't.
Yeah, I figured it was be full time for a month, and it was probably something like that.
Yeah. Do you think did the timing of the sale of the business benefit either one of you? Do you know if the numbers are still strong, if it's still growing 30% year over year?
I'm not tracking the revenue. I think it probably took the buyers probably let's say 6-8 weeks to really get the marketing in gear. And so I think they're, sort of on a good trajectory. I think the buyers had a number of things that they wanted to do with product and sort of growing Amazon and some different things that they thought were they're not running the business exactly the same way I did. They're bringing their own, unique.
All buyers are smarter than sellers. They come in and they're smarter. They're going to do things differently. That's a shame.
Exactly.
It's not always right though, but it is what it is.
Listen, I've got plenty to keep me busy. I'm very excited. I thought it was a good time in the business, in the arc of the business, for somebody else to bring some new moxie, energy, creativity to the game. And so I'm very excited. I think it all worked out in that way that I had hoped. And I'm very encouraged by the work that the buyers are doing.
Excellent. Well, let's talk about what you're doing now, because at the beginning of this, before we hit record, we talked a little bit about some consulting that you landed into because of your experience in Hollywood and your experience being an entrepreneur and growing this business. What is it that you're doing now? And now that you've exited the business?
Well, so when you're a Hollywood producer or a Hollywood executive, you really are a marketing executive. Even if you're the content guy making shows, there's never enough marketing dollars to promote your shows. So you really do have to at least have some creativity in the way you shape your product and the messaging around your product to be efficient. To, as we talked a bit about, having a really good conversion rate. And so when I launched AltCMO, I basically took the marketing content methodology that I had at Playboy and used it writ small. So we had sort of an internal agency within our company and the new company. And so after I sold the business, after about 5 or 6 weeks, I started reaching out to friends and saying, or my colleagues or LinkedIn network, and said, hey, I sold my business. And, I had a lot of people who had been tracking, we were engaged in tracking what we were doing and had been fans of the product and the way we did our marketing. And so I hadn't really planned this, but people just started saying, hey, can you help me with my launch a Shopify store for me? Or I have a friend who's got a consulting business in Japan. He's like, let's take this marketing thing that you do and apply it to our clients in Japan. And that's working well. And then I just landed today a client that's in the media space doing some sort of content work for them. So essentially, the things I've been doing both at my company, but also prior as a Hollywood executive, instead of taking another job working at a studio, I'm just, applying those skills, sort of these, let's call them clever, not clever, but like marketing skills that hopefully allow companies to do a better job of connecting with their customers without spending so much on ads. So it's that conversion rate ROI thing.
Yeah. And the URL is alt-cmo.com. Is that right?
Correct.
Yeah. ALT is an alternative. It almost sounds like you're a bit of a fractional CFO, but with some specific stuff, which is try to boost conversion rate without spending a whole lot more money.
I think also like every place I worked had a CMO, and they're wonderful people. They have, if you look at a job listing for a CMO, the number of bullet points in that job listing is, it's incalculable. And so I always felt like when I was working in Hollywood that I would never get enough attention for my particular show, not because the CMOs didn't like me. It's just there's just too many kids trying to eat from a fixed table. And so I just have a different way of looking at marketing, which is focused more on what are the things I can do with my product and my messaging to make whatever my marketing spend is more efficient. And I don't think, CMOs are busy people. They can't necessarily every day think about how can I make my marketing spend more efficient, because their job is to achieve growth.
Right.
So it's not alt. It's not so much fractional. It's like let's if you're tired of spending too much money on ads, or you think you're spending too much money on ads, then maybe there's some things that you can do that are less expensive that maybe help you be more efficient in your marketing and your storytelling. Mm-hmm. And also, one last beat. Can I tell you? So I'll tell you one piece of advice for you. So I look at marketing not as, a lot of people think is what am I going to tell about my product to a customer so that they're going to think of my product and like it. When I said this idea that you ask people, tell me about yourself, and oh, that's interesting, tell me more. It's sort of like my wife, her love language is, did I wipe the counter? So I learned very clearly, I don't need to buy flowers every day. If I keep the kitchen clean, I win. I've learned her love language. So it's the same thing with this idea of, well, how did you grow your conversion rate? We learn the language of our customers, and we speak the words that they use. And it's a way of showing love. And so what I think about marketing and conversion rate, if anybody ever wants to hire me, is you just need to get customers to fall in love with you just enough, pull out their credit card and buy. If you get that, then people will buy, and people will do it without so much spending on ads. So my idea is that, wow, that traffic that you have, that you already are getting is so valuable. You've already got people to your website. If you can be loving and sensitive to people and truly deliver a great product, then you can convert well and you can be way more profitable.
Sounds great. Sounds fantastic. How do people reach you, Dan, if they want to talk to you about?
I have a visual aid. Let's see if I can get it to show up on camera correctly. What? Turn it this way. There we go.
You got it.
No, there we go. Dan at alt-cmo.com.
Dan at altcmo.com. Check it out, guys. Reach out to him if you need some help. Dan, love your story, from Hollywood executive to EXITpreneur, and now helping folks in this online world. Thanks so much for sharing your time with me today. I appreciate it.
All right. Well, thank you so much. It was great fun.